When Willard's white moonlight returned to the country, she started seeing me as an eyesore. In response, Willard had me thrown into prison. When I was released, he came to pick me up. "Don't make her mad again. I'll still take care of you," he said. I smiled back. "No need, I have a new sponsor now." Then I turned and got into the car of his arch-rival. Willard's expression immediately darkened. "Just try and see what happens if you're with someone else." When I got out, Willard was there to meet me. Leaning against his sports car, he stood out in the dull, gray surroundings of the prison. He handed me a cigarette. "Tough time, wasn't it?" He lit it for me, surprisingly considerate. "I'll take you to buy some jewelry, to make it up to you." I looked at his handsome face, his long eyes partially concealed by dark lashes, making it hard to tell what he was thinking. A half-smile played on his lips, casual and aloof. He spoke as he walked. "Apologize to Brianna when you get back. Tell her you won't upset her again, and I'll hide you away in a villa she doesn't know about. An elegant home, with my own little treasure," he added. "Brianna is his fiancée, and my mortal enemy. She was the one whose word put me in prison, leaving me to nearly die there. Now, miraculously alive and out, Willard wants me to apologize to her." I looked at his indifferent face and suddenly thought back to 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Willard had handed me a cigarette in just the same way. "I heard your family went bankrupt. How about sticking with me?" My family had gone under. My father ran off, leaving behind my critically ill mother and me, who knew nothing about survival. My mother needed a large sum of money, which I couldn't come up with even by working 3 jobs. I begged everyone I knew, even resorting to kneeling, but all I got were sneers. "This world respects the high and mighty and tramples the weak." I had nowhere to turn. In my darkest hour, Willard saved me. I became his mistress, and my mother got her treatment. I moved into his villa, drove his luxury cars, and wore exclusive high-end jewelry once again. Willard told me to simply enjoy it all. When emotions ran high, he would kiss me in the dark of night and say, "Just stay by my side, be happy, and don't overthink it." But after experiencing bankruptcy, I was no longer lazy. I pushed myself to exercise, practice yoga, and keep my figure in shape. I endured excruciating beauty treatments to maintain my appearance. I picked up my long-forgotten skills in piano and violin, always ready to perform for Willard. I even studied finance, art, and literature, just so I'd have something to talk about when Willard felt like chatting. The cruelty I experienced after our downfall taught me one thing: if someone's willing to spend on you, it's best to keep them happy. I used to be known as a spoiled and unreasonable socialite, but now I had even learned the art of tea ceremony, not to mention baking and cooking. I even mastered horseback riding, ready to serve whenever Willard wanted me on his estate. Willard would often hold my chin, his other hand brushing my face. "You don't really have to do all this. All you need to do is look pretty." I responded with a perfect sweet smile. "Mr. Willard, I'm more than willing to please you." Willard helped me. I owed it to him to be devoted. But perhaps I was a little too devoted. I became so focused that I forgot I was merely his purchased amusement. I even found myself secretly calculating our birth dates, daydreaming of a future together, united until the end of our days. Before my family's bankruptcy, I was a young socialite myself, so no one had told me that the first rule of being a mistress is not to fall in love. Falling in love only brings misfortune. I didn't know this. So, when Willard's white moonlight Brianna returned, I paid the price. Willard loved Brianna. And Brianna loved Royal. She followed Royal abroad, and that was the day Willard took me in. I later understood that Willard only kept me around because Brianna and I were sworn enemies in high society. He was venting his frustration at Brianna's lack of love for him. But, back then, I thought Willard genuinely liked me. I had no sense of danger. It had been a long time since Willard had come to see me, and I thought he was busy. When I called, he hung up, and I thought he was preoccupied. One day, he returned and collapsed into bed, faint red marks on his neck. I assumed he was just stressed, immune system worn down. The next morning, as he cuddled my exhausted body, he murmured, "I won't abandon you. Don't worry." I felt a surge of sweetness, thinking he was reassuring me because he was so busy. Only when Brianna came to find me did I understand what he'd really been busy with. Brianna looked at me as though a pedigree dog inspecting a stray. Ethel, how did you stoop to becoming a mistress? She sneered. Willard proposed to me last night, and I accepted. She showed me her ring. Ethel, a mistress is what? A long-term bed partner? Not even a real rival, just an object to satisfy desires. I stared at the ring. I'd once sent Willard a photo of that ring, bashfully imagining the wedding dress I'd wear. But now it was on Brianna's hand. I wanted to endure it, but I couldn't. Mistress was too sharp a word, and that ring was too blinding. Willard had treated me so well I'd come to believe I was worthy of competing with Brianna. In hindsight, how foolish. I raised my hand and slapped Brianna twice, the sounds crisp and clear. She froze, clutching her face. My workouts had made me quite strong. She glared coldly, then laughed. You really think Willard spoils you? Ethel, he kept you around just to spite me. Wait and see, there'll be a time when you'll regret this. At the time, I was nervous. But when Willard came back that night, he didn't scold me. In fact, he was even more passionate than usual. Half asleep, he carried me to the shower. Before I drifted off, he said quietly, Brianna means a lot to me. You shouldn't have hit her. Curled in his arms, I forced myself to look up at him. Willard pulled me closer, inhaling my scent. You need a little punishment, so you'll behave. I thought the punishment was just that intense night. Shyly, I kissed his chin. Okay. He'd tamed me into a canary in a gilded cage, thinking that as long as I stayed inside, I was safe and content. Willard's behavior afterward didn't suggest any anger. He even brought me to his company, teaching me how to do business. Grateful, I followed his every instruction, obedient to a fault. Some of the tasks were odd, but I didn't question them. A month later, Willard's lawyer filed charges against me, embezzlement. I didn't even know what the charge meant. I was completely stunned. I went to find Willard, but his office door was locked, and my usual access code no longer worked. When I tried calling him, the number that was always reachable was now disconnected. When the police came to take me away, I still hadn't managed to reach Willard. Only his lawyer was there, coldly leaving me a message, reflect well in prison. We'll take care of your mother. And just like that, I was sent to prison, my spirit crushed. Life in prison was harsh. I was beaten as soon as I got in, left bruised and swollen. Then beaten until I couldn't get up. Beaten until I was on my knees, begging. Finally, I'd faced death, then started to fight back. Battered and wild, I was like a mad dog driven to desperation. Anyone who provoked me, I'd bite back with lethal force. By the time I was released, not a single woman in the prison dared mess with me. The former heiress and mistress had died in that prison. The one who came out was a mad dog. Today, this mad dog, with half a life left, stepped out of prison and found Willard waiting at the gate. He stroked my head lightly, lips curling. Behave yourself and don't make her angry, and I'll keep taking care of you. He buried his head by my neck, breathing in the scent of my hair, which had been washed with cheap shampoo. The smell has changed, but it's okay. Give it some time and it'll come back. He still thought I was that pampered little canary who adored her gilded cage. Too bad. I wasn't that anymore. Now, I was a wounded, vengeful stray, full of hate. I broke free from his embrace. Willard frowned in displeasure. What's wrong? I pointed to the luxury car parked nearby. Sorry, I have a new patron now. With that, I got in without looking back. The window rolled down slowly, revealing a young, handsome face with a carefree grin directed at Willard. Long time no see. Willard's face darkened. Royal. Royal used to dislike me. His family came up from nothing, building their fortune from scratch, and they'd always been looked down upon by the old money circles who mocked people like us. It was no surprise he'd been resentful of us spoiled heirs and heiresses for years. But when I was in prison, feeling like the world had forgotten me, he was the only one who visited. I looked at him, puzzled, and asked why he'd come. Royal crossed his long legs, sizing me up. I think it's a shame. He said, I remember you. After your family went bankrupt, you didn't break down, you worked hard to play the mistress. He told me there were two things about me that left a strong impression. First, when Willard took me to a business gathering, he got so drunk he nearly fell over. I rushed to cushion his fall, scraping my hand badly in the process. I didn't even glance at it, didn't flinch. The second time, he'd seen me coming out of a bookstore with a few books on modern art investment. A week later, he heard Willard had developed an interest in modern art and bought a metal sculpture, which later appreciated significantly in value. Royal leaned forward. That's why I think it's a shame. You take the role of a mistress as seriously as a real job. You're diligent and dedicated, yet you can't compare to Brianna pouting or batting her eyes. It's Willard who's blind. His words struck a nerve, and I lowered my gaze in silence. Royal chuckled, but I'm not blind, Ethel. When you're out, come to me. I'm more reliable than Willard. He said I had grit and ambition in my eyes, and he could use that. So, the day I was released, I got into Royal's car right in front of Willard. As he drove, Royal laughed, "You getting into my car must be killing Willard." At a red light, he even pulled out his phone and posted a picture of us together, picking up my girl. Time for a great dinner tonight. Almost immediately, I got a message from Willard, "Ethel, is this how you want to play it? The whole circle knows I had you for 3 years. Who do you think won't care?" I stared out the window without replying, but a painful crack formed somewhere deep inside me. He really did know just how to shred my pride, after all those years together. But that's fine. The more it hurts, the more I hate him. Brianna called Royal. In our circle, there's an odd pattern. The more someone ignores us, the harder we find it to let them go. Royal has a rebellious streak. This circle's always shunned him, so he flips them the bird every chance he gets. Apparently, Brianna once invited him out for drinks, and when he was in a bad mood, he overturned his glass and left without a second thought. That only made her obsess over him more, following him from here to abroad. On the phone, Brianna sounded panicked. "Royal, when did you get with her?" "Just now." "I won her over," Royal replied casually. Brianna's tone turned urgent. "Don't you know? Ethel let Willard have her for 3 years, and when he got bored, he kicked her straight into jail. Willard never even thought of her as a person." "Royal, aren't you disgusted?" She spoke with an obvious sneer. "She was a mistress, for goodness sake." I bit my lip hard, closing my eyes. I knew Royal wouldn't care, he wasn't with me for that reason. But still, I clenched my teeth until they nearly broke. I remembered the humiliation from back then, feeling like even the air around me was mocking me. But I had no regrets. Back then, I had no other options. I was once a proud young lady, adored and untouchable. But life doesn't need much to shatter your pride, just a bankruptcy notice and a sick mother, and you'll be groveling. Face to the ground. I'd just been forced to lower my head, that's all. I'd competed with Brianna for years, dresses, jewelry, vacations, connections, even boyfriends, and we'd always been neck and neck. But now, finally, we had a winner. Brianna won. But she won on luck. And I lost to fate. Royal glanced at me, one hand on the steering wheel, the other patting the back of my hand. He interrupted Brianna's rant. "Isn't the shame on you?" "What?" Brianna was stunned. Royal repeated, word by word, "Isn't the shame on you? You, a woman who's known Ethel for ages, knew her mother was gravely ill, and you said nothing when Willard took advantage of her situation. Instead, you're helping him smear her name? What, are you a man in spirit? You call her dirty, but I find your heart filthy." Brianna was silent for a long moment. Then, after a few seconds, she hung up the phone in tears. I stared at Royal in astonishment. He raised an eyebrow. "Smooth talker, aren't I?" I nodded, dumbfounded. Just then, the car emerged from under the shade of a tree, and sunlight streamed in from my side, casting a warm glow on his face. My mood lifted, and I smiled. "Thank you for speaking up." That evening at Huayong Pavilion, Royal gathered a crowd and officially announced we were together. Brianna arrived, clinging proudly to Willard's arm. Royal held me close. "This is my girlfriend. Everyone, take care of her." One of Brianna's friends sneered at me. "But weren't you with Willard? I saw you two having dinner the day before you were locked up." "Too bad," our Brianna returned, and Willard cleared out the trash. Brianna laughed. Willard's face was stone cold. "We were never together. Just fooling around." He glanced at me in Royal's arms, a cruel smile tugging at his lips. Just a toy. When it's worn out, you throw it where it belongs. I clenched my fists, ready to bite back. But Royal patted me gently and whispered, "You don't have to say a thing. I've got this." He raised his glass. "Willard, why are you so pale? Feeling unwell? Better take care of yourself. Unless what you call playing around was more of a chore for the other party." Willard's face darkened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Royal leaned lazily against me, his 6-foot frame practically draping over me. "Oh, nothing. Just repeating some things Ethel's told me over the years." He pinched my cheek. "Right, Ethel?" I blushed and nodded. "Why do you remember all that?" "Don't say it out loud." Willard's face turned even grimmer. Silence fell over the room, and people's gazes toward him grew uncomfortable. Willard clenched his teeth, staying silent. With his temper, he'd normally have left by now. But today, he was so furious, yet he didn't budge. It surprised me. Later, I drank a bit too much and stepped into the hallway to get some fresh air by the open window. Barely a minute later, Willard appeared beside me. "Did you really say those things to Royal?" I was a little tipsy, amused. "Take a guess." Willard's face went pale. "I'm not guessing. Just tell me." "You begged me every time." I frowned, cutting him off. "I didn't tell Royal anything." He looked relieved. Then I added, "But every time we were together, I just treated it as a performance review. I cared about my score, not your performance." I didn't care, I felt nothing. Willard's face darkened. I looked at him with a smile. "How's my act? Do I deserve the allowance you give me?" Willard gritted his teeth. "Ethel. You're doing this on purpose to annoy me." I shrugged, heading towards the private room. "Think what you want. Whatever makes you happy." He grabbed my wrist. "Think you're all grown up now, and can just leave? What about your mother?" I shook off his hand. "Stop threatening me. I'm no longer your mistress, I don't owe you any dedication." He was taken aback. "Dedication?" It seemed he realized something then, narrowing his eyes. "So all your sweetness was just an act?" "Of course. Back when my family wasn't bankrupt, I had been sparring with Brianna for years. How could I have actually been sweet?" Without looking at him, I walked past. "Willard, you really should know your limits. When an employer fires an employee, they shouldn't expect them to come crawling back. There are plenty of companies out there." "Oh, and by the way, Royal covered a year of my mother's medical expenses yesterday." To be fair, Willard did keep his word. While I was in prison, he never missed a single payment for my mom's expenses and even visited her a few times, claiming he saw me as a sister and that I was just on a business trip. He'd told her he was visiting on my behalf. My mother, paralyzed and unable to call me, was thankfully calmed by Willard's little white lies. But I have no gratitude for him. I was his mistress, putting in the work without complaint. If there were an award for most dedicated mistress, I'd have earned a spot. But he was a terrible boss. Instead of raises or promotions, he offered prison sentences. When I reached the door of the private room, I glanced back and sneered, "Willard, you're a real hypocrite. What kind of brother sleeps with his sister?" Willard gritted his teeth. "Has prison turned you this crude?" "Yes, thanks to you. When I first went in, I did my best to keep a low profile, treading carefully and staying out of trouble. I called everyone boss, trying not to offend a soul. But I almost got beaten to death for it, and I couldn't even get a scrap of soup at mealtime. Eventually, I had enough and started fighting back. I was beaten to the point where I could barely move in bed. That's when Dale stepped in to protect me. Dale was sharp and ruthless, no one dared mess with her. When she learned about my background, she fell silent for a moment before sighing. "Back in the day, I even visited your father once on behalf of my company." She started sharing her food with me, teaching me how to read people and how to curry favor with the tougher inmates. She taught me how to fight the hardest way, advising me to either take a beating quietly or, if I decided to strike back, to go all in, no holding back. Taking a beating won't kill you, but fighting back might. "Think it through," Dale would say. I looked down at my blood-streaked arm and closed my eyes. I had tried so hard to be the dutiful mistress, only to end up in prison. I'd humbled myself, hoping to survive as a model inmate, only to be treated like a dog. I was sick of it. I was done with this world that trampled on me. I had once tried to compromise, to break down my pride and grind it into dust. But the world treated me like garbage. Lying there in bed, staring at my own blood staining the sheets, I felt my pride stitch itself back together piece by piece, making me lift my head despite the dirt on my face. From that day on, I would no longer compromise. I would no longer endure. I could risk my life, but I couldn't lose my dignity again. I'd get it back, even if it cost me my life. Every day after that, I fought without hesitation, without fear for my life. My scars bought back my pride at the cost of hiding my waste forever. And now, in this circle, I was going to replay what happened in prison all over again. When I returned, I wasn't sure what Royal had told everyone, but the way they looked at me changed, with a little respect. Royal's family might have been new money, but their influence was growing. People looked down on them yet still held some fear, warning their children not to cross the Royal family. After a round of drinks, Royal was drunk, wobbling as he held my hand and walked me out. Willard's face darkened. "Where are you going?" I looked at him, puzzled. "Going home with Royal, of course. Where else?" Willard took a deep breath, gritting his teeth. "Shouldn't you go check on your mother?" I blinked. "Now? In the middle of the night?" Willard fell silent. Brianna glanced up at him, clearly unwell. "Willard, I don't feel good." He snapped back, "I'll take you home." On Royal's car ride home, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Willard. "There have been many new money families, but none have lasted to the third generation. I'll give you one more chance. Come back to me." I couldn't help but laugh. I showed the message to Royal. He propped his chin on his hand. 3 out of 10. I asked him, "What's the score to make a move?" 8 or higher, I'd say. I nodded, closed my eyes, and stopped talking. Royal sat beside me in silence, watching me from the back seat. He drove me to one of his empty apartments, and as I got out, he suddenly spoke. "Not all new money families are brainless. Some are reliable." I wasn't sure why he was saying that, but I nodded absently. He stared at me, his eyes bright in the dark night. "When all of this is over, what do you want to do?" I shook my head. "Haven't thought about it. Let me know when you decide." Royal smiled and closed the door. As I walked up, I realized that smile was, actually pretty nice. The next morning, I got a call from my mom's hospital. "Ms. Ethel, we're terribly sorry, but we've run out of rooms. We'll refund your payments, so please arrange for her transfer." I froze. Was that even possible? After a moment, I understood. Willard had shares in that hospital. I called Royal. He immediately got in touch with a better hospital and arranged for my mother's transfer. Royal took the doctor along to move my mom while I stayed behind to pack up her things. Within an hour, he had her settled. It was then that Willard arrived. Seeing him, I was ready to leave, but he blocked my way. "Do you really hate seeing me that much?" Did he even need to ask? A smart dog doesn't block the path. I gave him a sideways look. "You couldn't even tolerate my sick mother, yet you expect me to be grateful?" Willard's face darkened, his brows knit. "Ethel, you know how to make me change my mind. Stay away from Royal, and I might consider letting your mother stay here. Don't bother." I cut him off. "I've already moved her to another hospital." I stepped aside, showing him the empty room. "Now, we're truly done. Clean slate." Willard looked shocked, then clenched his jaw. "You think you can just walk away like that?" He sneered. "What's gotten into you? Royal is just new money. So what? He's younger, better looking, better in bed, and doesn't have a first love hanging around to make me sick." I smirked. "Tell me, Willard, where can you even compete? Even just a little?" A vein throbbed on Willard's forehead. "Ethel, I've been too lenient with you." He grabbed my chin, "Enough of this defiance." He crushed his lips against mine, anger in every movement, forcing my arms behind my back with such strength that I couldn't break free. So I didn't struggle, going limp, as lifeless as a doll. Willard stopped. You didn't used to kiss like this. I wiped my mouth in disgust. Because I used to take my job seriously. His face darkened. Stop bringing that up. He cupped my face and kissed me again. But still, no reaction. I was like a corpse. Willard looked at me, baffled. Ethel, what's wrong with you? I lowered my gaze and chuckled coldly, pulling out an alcohol wipe from my bag. Ignoring the harsh scent, I wiped my lips thoroughly. What's wrong with me? I've finally given up. Back then, I focused all my efforts on getting close to him, and he repaid me by throwing me in jail. Now he's here, asking me what's wrong? I wiped my hands with a wet wipe and tossed it into the trash. I don't need your money now, so why should I react? I stepped around him and walked out. Willard, thank you for kicking my mom out of the hospital. Now the last thread connecting us is gone. Hope you're happy. Behind me, Willard growled, Ethel, you used to love me. I could see it in your eyes. I laughed even harder. Then one of us definitely needs an eye checkup. As I left the hospital, I found some shade under a tree and stood there for a moment. There was still a lingering ache, a quiet pull on my heartstrings. Not for Willard, but for my past self. All that sincere emotion couldn't get Willard to stop for me even once. But now that I treat him like garbage, he can't take his eyes off me. So, what did my feelings mean back then? A comedy show? I called Royal and gave him a brief rundown. When he heard that Willard had kissed me, not once, but twice, Royal paused. Next time you see him, I'll be there with you. I was speechless. What about the plan? I chose you because of your character, but it doesn't have to be you to bring down Willard, Royal said coolly. At the very least, you don't need to do it this way. I shrugged it off. What time is it now? About 6, Royal replied. Okay. I hung up and took a few steps forward. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Willard leaving the hospital, looking displeased and heading toward the parking lot. I lowered my head, pretending to check my phone, and walked toward the parking lot to create a chance encounter. This trick has been used by women for thousands of years, yet men never seem to wonder if it has another name, stalking. As I neared him, I twisted my ankle hard in my heels and fell to the ground heavily. My ankle swelled instantly, and the pain was intense. But that was fine, I'd gotten used to tolerating pain in prison. Willard hesitated, then quickly walked toward me. As he came closer, I could see the worry on his face. I furrowed my brow in pain, but inwardly, I breathed a sigh of relief. 2 more points gained. In our world, it's strange, things easily within reach are often discarded. Yet the unattainable keeps you tossing and turning, restless day and night. Just like Willard now, holding me with a face full of concern. When I went to prison, I never saw him worry like this. He took me to the doctor, carefully applying medication to my injuries. Brianna called him. Willard answered, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll call you back later. Then he hung up. I lowered my gaze, remembering how he used to hang up on me the same way. And back then, I believed him. After a CT scan, they found a fracture and advised me to wear a brace and move less. Willard reassured me, it's okay, it'll be better in a couple of days. I nodded. I know. Of course, I knew. As a former heiress, a fracture was a big deal, something that would have me bedridden for 3 months. But for Ethel in prison, a fracture was no more than a lost strand of hair. Life went on as usual. I stood up, and a scar on my waist caught his attention, a twisted, grim reminder of a toothbrush handle stabbed into my side. In prison, I learned that even an A4 sheet of paper could be folded into a stick and used to stab someone in the neck. Willard's hand froze, his eyes filled with disbelief. What happened to you? I replied casually, got stabbed in prison. Willard stiffened as though he'd heard something terrifying. I limped out, not needing a brace and without a single complaint. Willard quickly followed and wrapped me in a hug from behind. You used to be so afraid of pain, his voice was rough. I didn't know it would be like this. Of course, he didn't. How could people like him possibly understand life in prison? He hugged me tighter. I understand why you ignore me now. Just give me a chance to make it up to you, Ethel. I swear, I didn't know. I lowered my eyes. 7 points collected. When Willard dropped me off at my building, he seemed relieved to see that I wasn't living with Royal. He suggested, "Why don't you move back in with me? I'm worried you won't be able to take care of yourself." I looked at him in surprise. "Forget Royal, what if Brianna finds out? Are you going to send me to jail again?" Willard lowered his eyes, frustrated. "No, this time I'd never let that happen. I thought jail was just about losing your freedom." "Just about losing freedom." I let out a bitter smile. How confident I'd been to think a man like him could truly care about a mistress used out of spite. I waved him off. "You have Brianna, I have Royal. Let's not complicate things. There's no chance for us anymore." Willard didn't respond. Later, after I'd washed up and eaten, I looked out the window. He was still downstairs, chain-smoking. Once he left, I messaged Royal to update him on the situation. Late at night, he came over with iodine, gauze, and a brace. Willard had spent hours regretting things, yet it never occurred to him to bring me a brace. He just tried to transfer me some money. Royal placed my foot on his knee, carefully wrapping the brace and tending to my knee wound with iodine. "You're way too willing to put yourself at risk," he said with a frown. I brushed it off. "How else can I succeed?" Royal wrapped my knee in gauze. "If this plan depends on you taking risks, I'd rather stop." He handled my injury so gently, afraid to hurt me, and I was moved. If it were up to me alone, I could bring him down in half a year. "I'm just a little impatient." He looked up at me. "But I can take my time." I shook my head. "Royal, you don't understand. I need to do this myself. It's my obsession. If I don't, I'll live with regret for the rest of my life." Royal didn't agree, but I insisted. "If I can't finish it, I'd rather go back to jail." He held my gaze for a long time, finally giving in. "And when it's done? You need to think about what comes after. You're not going to retire in prison, are you?" I shook my head. "I don't know. Right now, all I want is to bring Willard down." Royal sighed, asking, "Is there anything you really enjoy? You picked up a lot of skills with Willard. Did you like any of it?" I thought for a moment. "No. I did it all for him." He pressed, "Before you met him, then?" I wasn't sure why he cared, but I thought back. Before my family went bankrupt, I loved gardening. My balcony was filled with lush flowers and plants, and there was a greenhouse in the yard, all tended by me. No help from the servants. Royal nodded, standing up. "I'll find you a part-time helper. Get some rest for a few days and don't rush to find Willard." I shook my head. "There's no need, don't think of me as weak. You saw me in prison, you know how I was." Royal smiled. "Of course, I expected no less. Get some rest, then." After Royal left, I had a dream that night. In the dream, my garden was withering. But I was in prison, unable to water the plants. I begged Willard, begged Brianna, begged all my old friends for help. They just laughed, watching me cry. Not one of them stepped up. In the end, Royal offered his hand. "I'll help you, but you'll need to help me complete my plan." He pointed at Willard. "Bring him down for me. I want to take over his territory." Looking at Willard's indifferent face, I nodded hard. After a long night of dreams, I woke up in the morning to two messages. One from Willard, asking if I was still in pain and saying he'd bring me breakfast. And one from Royal. He sent me an address, a vast stretch of land outside the city. "When it's all over, how about turning this place into your garden?" I didn't reply. I had once wholeheartedly relied on someone, only to suffer the consequences. Now, I no longer dare rely on anyone. And I don't want to either. I managed to make a name for myself in prison, where all sorts of people mix. Why would I need to depend on anyone? Willard came by early in the morning looking for me. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. He called me, "Where did you go so early?" While eating a sandwich at a convenience store, I replied, Royal was worried, so he took me to the hospital for a checkup. Willard was displeased. "But I brought you breakfast and your meds." I responded, Royal has to go to the office soon. If you're free, wait for me. If not, that's fine. Willard hesitated, then gritted his teeth. I'll wait. Willard had never waited for anyone before, It was always others who waited for him. I could tell he wasn't happy. I spent the morning strolling, snacking, and shopping. 3 years in prison had almost made me forget how to enjoy myself. Around 10, he called me again. "Are you coming back?" I was getting a manicure and told him, "Royal wants to have lunch with me," and asked me to wait. "You can go back first." With that, I hung up. When he called again, I didn't pick up. After a while, Willard sent me a message. "Ethel, don't treat me like this. I know you're getting a manicure, I could hear it. You used to care about me a lot. It hurts to see you like this." I looked at the message and smirked. Before I went to prison, I had texted him too, "Willard, don't do this to me, I'm scared." But he hadn't even replied, only told his lawyer to tell me to reform well. I replied to Willard, "I still need another hour. Are you willing to wait?" Willard replied with one word, "Wait." An hour later, I saw Willard's silver Bentley parked downstairs. He was leaning against the car, smoking. Eyes shut tight in a cloud of smoke, he only opened them when he heard my footsteps, bloodshot and weary. "You left me hanging on purpose." He seemed bewildered. "Ethel, you used to care about me. What can I do to make you go back to that?" Willard lowered his head in front of me. "I know you still love me, Ethel. I give up, okay?" I silently watched him, head bowed. After a moment, I held out my hand. "Willard, I'm too tired to walk. Carry me upstairs." Willard bent down and lifted me up. "All right." He carried me up, poured me a glass of water, and even helped me take off my shoes, things he'd never have done before. He even went down to the grocery store, took off his expensive suit jacket, and cooked me a meal. Watching his busy figure, I suddenly felt a bitterness for my former self. If this is all it takes to make Willard care, what was the point of everything I gave before? Brianna called as Willard was wearing an apron, making soup for me. Tomorrow is Brianna's birthday, and also her and Willard's engagement anniversary. She asked him what his plans were for tomorrow, but Willard, staring impatiently at the bubbling pot, said, "You handle it." Then he hung up and brought a bowl of soup over to me. "Break up with Royal, won't you? I can keep doing this, cooking and taking care of you." He glanced at my waist, lowered his head, and said, "I owe you that much." I sipped the soup in silence. As Willard cleaned up the room, I answered Royal's call. "Hey, baby. What's up?" Royal asked, "Is Willard there?" I murmured a confirmation. Royal said, "I'll come over. I don't trust him alone with you when you're not fully mobile." I paused. "Don't forget what I said." Royal hesitated before replying bitterly, "I shouldn't have partnered with you in the first place. It's a headache every day." I hung up, and Willard asked, "Royal?" I nodded. "He thinks I'll get bored and suggested I work at his company." Willard put on his jacket to leave, looking upset. But just as he stepped out, he turned back. "There's a company out of town called Mega Profit Ventures. If you're willing, you can go there directly as a manager." He looked at me, almost pleading. "Ethel, just get away from this city. Let's start over." After a long moment, I nodded. "All right. I'll give you another chance." Willard's face lit up like a child's. "I knew you couldn't forget me." I gave him a soft smile. 80%, time to start. Willard arranged for me to be transferred to Mega Profit Ventures. Mega Profit Ventures isn't closely tied to Willard's main corporation, no one knows it's his. Royal flew out to see me. "I'm worried Willard might take advantage of you. I'll stay here with you for a while." He looked at me deeply. "The plan doesn't matter as much anymore. Your safety is more important." I avoided his gaze and changed the subject. When it comes to relationships, one mistake is enough. Only a fool makes the same mistake twice. When I joined the company, no one was convinced of me at first. But after handling mistresses in prison, a regular job was nothing. I worked hard, showed my skills, and quickly earned my colleagues' acceptance. Not to mention that Willard visited me several times, making it clear I had his favor. Gradually, I won them over. Although I wasn't given access to the core business, they no longer kept financial matters from me. I often worked late into the night, staying until the entire office was empty. Once, Willard called me drunk in the middle of the night. Ethel, I bought a villa near the company and finished decorating it. He added, there are good international schools around. If we ever have kids, their education would be covered. Confused, I asked, why are you telling me this? Willard chuckled happily. I want to settle down in that city with you, have a few kids. I asked, and Brianna? Willard was unfazed. She won't come to this city or cross paths with you. This home would be ours. I felt sick, but smiled sweetly. Then get me a promotion first. Don't just make empty promises. The following week, I was promoted to vice president of Mega Profit Ventures. I worked even harder, staying until everyone else had left. It was easier to get things done when no one was around. Royal had assigned 2 programmers to assist me. Every night, they helped me hack into the company's systems to retrieve what I needed. I stayed up until the early morning each day, sleeping only 4 hours before rushing back to work. I lost 10 pounds, my eyes constantly shadowed. My lymph nodes frequently swelled, and I occasionally broke out in rashes. It was the price of sleepless nights. Royal frowned, are you really planning to take down Willard, even at the cost of your health? Is it worth it? I smiled. Yes, it's worth it. They had once ground my face into the dirt. And I happen to be someone who values pride above life. Late at night in the office, sipping black coffee, I thought of Dale. She hadn't just taught me to survive in prison, but a lot more. How to forge accounts, launder money, manipulate the stock market, trace clues, to uncover major schemes. When I was released, Dale had styled my hair and sighed. We're all pawns Willard discarded. I still have a few years left, but you're different. Her eyes sparkled with hope. You can go out there and show them that a pawn can still overturn the game board. Dale had once been a high-ranking executive under Willard, but he had pinned a scandal on her, leaving her to serve over a decade. That's Willard's style, use you until he doesn't need you, then toss you into the abyss without a second thought or even an apology. He laughs it off, light-hearted and at ease. But I find their laughter sickening. I want to, as a discarded pawn, not just overturn but shatter their board. And smash their arrogance along with it. I put down my coffee, pocketed the hard drive, and went downstairs to meet Royal for dinner. Royal had stayed here with me for half a year. He smiled, my dad's still strong, and my mom's even sprier. I'm just in the way at the family business. He lowered his head, slicing his steak. So I might as well stay with you. I took a sip of white wine and casually changed the subject. It's been 6 months. We've collected nearly all the evidence. Royal raised his glass. Thank God. You'll finally be done with Willard. He sneered, Willard wants to settle down with you. Doesn't he realize he's engaged? I laughed. How could anyone expect moral integrity from Willard? My hard drive is almost full. It's packed with evidence of Willard's money laundering, currency evasion, and illegal stock manipulation. That so-called old money family, who carry themselves as if they've never had to bow their heads, hides nothing but filth and stench behind their elegant facade. Mega Profit Ventures, a firm created by Dale, exists solely to handle Willard's dirty work. She knows exactly where the evidence is on his computer. I went to see her. She had her sentence reduced for good behavior. When she saw me, she grinned happily, Ethel, you look great since you got out. Just keep looking this good. And stop coming here, this place is bad luck. I smiled and nodded, all right, I'll be waiting for you on the outside. As I was leaving, I gave her one last update, the evidence is all there. Safe to say, Willard's reputation is about to get seriously shredded. Dale's eyes sparkled with tears as she nodded, good, good. She urged me to leave quickly, and as I walked out, I could hear her breaking down into sobs behind me. Here was Dale, feared by everyone in prison, ready to go to war at any moment, now crying like a helpless child. At 22, she'd sacrificed everything for the Willard family. She'd worked her life away for over a decade, too busy to even think about marriage, only to be discarded in a heartbeat, tossed in jail by the very family she'd served. Compared to her pain, my own suffering felt trivial. The moment I walked out of the prison, I took a deep breath and made a phone call. Hello, I'd like to make a formal report. Entrepreneur Willard is engaged in money laundering. Royal helped me create an online storm, circulating the evidence across the web. The public was instantly in an uproar, with the Willard family becoming the prime target of outrage. And as a delightful surprise, Brianna, who had numerous business ties with Willard's family, got dragged down with them. See, when you have the power to casually throw people in jail, it usually comes with a deep-rooted family tradition. With Willard's family empire crumbling and struggling to manage the fallout, Royal seized the chance to acquire several of their businesses. Eyes narrowed like a wolf on the hunt, he devoured each asset without a hint of hesitation. Willard didn't visit me this month. Word is, he's been so busy trying to save the family empire that he hasn't slept for days, running on 4 drips. But he did call me. It was you. His tone was firm. I nodded. Yes. Willard sounded confused. Why? Haven't I been good enough to you? I laughed. People like him, those spoiled young heirs, think sparing you a glance should earn them boundless gratitude. I thought of the dream I'd once had, where Willard would eventually fall in love with me for my hard work and dedication. Cinderella marries the prince, a fairy tale ending. The memory made me laugh so hard I had tears in my eyes. I send greetings from Miss Dale, who is currently in prison. Hope you enjoy life behind bars. Willard was silent for a few seconds. How do you know Miss Dale? Thanks to you, she and I became good friends in prison. Willard abruptly hung up. While I may lack the power to shake him, Dale's presence alone terrifies him. Even amid his turmoil, Willard managed to hire top-notch lawyers to sue me for corporate crimes. But before the case could even proceed, Willard's family empire crumbled completely. Willard and several family members ended up in prison. Brianna too. Just like my family once did, their empires fell. The difference is, they fell due to crime, while we fell into bankruptcy. Ironically, I now have more dignity than they ever did. I visited Dale again. The guards told me her behavior has been exemplary, and she may be eligible for release in 5 years if she keeps it up. When she heard Willard's empire had collapsed, she chuckled, they've sent so many others to prison. Now it's their turn to taste the experience themselves. She asked me, what's next for you? I thought of my little garden from back then, with its gentle fragrance and tranquility. I'm thinking about opening a flower shop. Dale laughed, saying she'd come work for me. I joked, with you there, I might have to take that flower shop public. Leaving the prison, I got into Royal's car. As he drove, he casually suggested, how about joining me? I'll even give you shares. I shook my head. From today, we won't need to meet so often. I have my own plans to take care of now. Royal made a sharp turn, pulling the car over to the side of the road. Wait, what do you mean by that? What do you take me for? I looked back, puzzled. A teammate, of course. What else? Royal's handsome face instantly darkened. Are you messing with me, Ethel? It's Ethel. No nicknames, please, thanks. I checked the time on my watch. Are we moving, or should I call for another ride? Royal grumbled a few words under his breath, reluctantly starting the car. After 50 meters, he stopped again. Does it have to be just teammates? Can't we adjust that? I looked at his dejected face, like a big golden retriever sulking without its chew toy, and couldn't help but laugh. The sunlight hit his profile, just as it had the day he picked me up from prison. I lowered my head, stifling a smile. We'll see. Let's take things as they come. Royal's face lit up. So there's a chance? His energy revived in an instant, he whistled cheerfully as he drove, taking us forward under the warm sun. A few years later, one bright afternoon, I was in my flower shop, tending to my plants. A haggard figure came in, eyeing a bouquet, but hesitating, clearly reluctant to spend the money. She turned and spotted me, exclaiming, Ethel. What are you doing here? It took me a moment, but I recognized her, it was Brianna. She must have been dumped by her latest sugar daddy. After her family's downfall, she refused to work and, like me once, became someone's mistress. But as her beauty faded, her sponsors became less and less impressive, until eventually, she ended up with a construction foreman. But I had no intention of mocking her. If it weren't for her forcing me out of Willard's life, her situation could have easily been mine today. I didn't believe Willard would have stayed interested in any mistress for long. If my appeal had faded, even prison might have been a luxury. Years of hardship had stripped Brianna of her former arrogance. Looking at me, her eyes flickered with envy. You're doing well now, your chain of flower shops, and the acres of flower fields in the suburbs. I've even seen news reports. But you ruined us. I looked down. Be grateful I didn't toss you into prison the way you did to me. I lifted my shirt to show her a scar on my waist. This is just one of them. Someone stabbed me with a toothbrush multiple times, I didn't think I'd make it back then. The scar, twisted like a snarling beast, stared back at her. Brianna took a step back, speechless. I laughed. Scared already? If I told you my prison stories, you'd be terrified. She shivered. You're not trying to mess with me, are you? I shook my head. I had no intention of making things hard for her. In the end, it was Willard who sent me to prison. She was merely an accomplice, and she'd received her punishment. I handed her a black lily. Here, happy birthday. And please, don't come back to my store. Brianna looked at the flower, her face turning red before she bolted out the door. Moments later, she returned, took the flower, her eyes red. I know what you're trying to say, but it's been a long time since anyone gave me flowers. She looked down, voice choked with emotion. I'll take it as your blessing. Watching her cry, I thought for a moment, then swapped the black lily with a gerbera. Take this instead, and don't come back. After Brianna left, Dale came out from behind the flower rack. You went soft, didn't you? She's not the one to blame, I replied, shaking my head. Come on, let's go check out the next place. At the store entrance, Royal leaned out of the car and called, where to next? I'll give you a ride. Dale laughed, teasing me, is he still your teammate? When's that going to change? I started walking toward Royal, replying as I went, soon. One day, when I'm strong enough. When I'm strong enough that betrayal and heartbreak won't faze me, when I can face every consequence love brings, that's when I'll smile and embrace love. But for now, the sunlight warmed both Royal's face and mine. I closed my eyes, choosing to savor this moment in the sun. End.